It wasn't long ago that I fell back in love with a 35mm focal length. There is something about it, the way it pulls you closer, invites you into the scene and helps you capture life unfolding with all its layers and stories. Today I want to share a story shaped by an almost 35mm lens, a lens that reminded me why I picked up a camera in the first place, the Viltrox 25mm f1.7. I've been embracing wider focal lengths for a while now. There was a time when I couldn't imagine shooting with something this wide, but for now I can't imagine doing street photography with anything else. And lately life seems to keep nudging me in that direction. One quiet morning a few weeks ago I received an interesting invitation from Bokeh. They asked if I would like to try out one of the budget-friendly lenses they provide, the Viltrox 25mm f1.7. A small lens, but one with a lot to say. By then I had already been shooting with 35mm equivalent lenses for a while now, and my enthusiasm for them had only grown. So the decision was easy. I said yes. Technically, this lens isn't a truly 35mm equivalent. On an APS-C sensor, the 25mm will give you a field of view closer to that of a 38mm on a full frame. But in practice, I treat it like a 35mm. The difference is subtle, almost unnoticed in day-to-day shooting. You still get a natural perspective with a touch more intimacy. It pushes you to think differently, to take a step closer if necessary, but still remain fully immersed in the moment. The Viltrox 25mm f1.7 isn't trying to be flashy. It's compact, weighing just 170 grams and built entirely from plastic, including the focus ring, which feels smooth and surprisingly precise. Despite the materials, it feels solid in the hands, well balanced and dependable. Manual focusing is actually quite good, but what really stands out for street photography is the autofocus. Fast, silent and accurate. That's not something you always find in this price range. It even comes with a small plastic lens hood. Nothing fancy, but it gets the job done. At $170, the build quality is more than respectable. I spent a few weeks with this lens, just walking, observing and shooting. I even took it with me on a little trip to a beautiful coastal town here in the UK called Wells next the sea. The focal length was perfect for the narrow streets of the town, allowing me to capture both the perspectives and life of the streets, as well as the little details. The light as it was hitting the windows or the storefronts with the toys and the fruits and anything you can imagine. Regardless of what I was shooting, the lens delivered. The images were sharp from corner to edge, whether I was shooting at f1.7 or f5.6. There was some vignetting when shooting wide open, but I kind of like that look. It fits quite well with my high contrast, almost nostalgic style. Regardless, when I stop down to f2.8, vignetting clears up almost completely. If you are enjoying this video, hit the like button and consider subscribing with the bell. Also stick until the end of the video because Bokeh has an offer that might be of your interest. I didn't stop there. I used this lens to capture one of the most beautiful features this place had to offer, the sea. When you want to photograph the might of the sea, you have to go wide. You have to take it all in. There are no distractions, no obstacles that you need to hide. That is why I chose this lens for this trip. And it delivered. I was able to capture the beauty of the sea both when the tide was low and when it was high. And when I visited a nearby bigger city called Hunstanton and photographed people playing with the sand or even with the waves, the lens was still able to take it all in. I also took the chance to capture some shots as the sun was setting, creating silhouettes bathed in warm golden light. I'd heard from others that the lens can flare when shooting directly against bright light, but I didn't notice much of it myself, even when facing the scorching sun. Maybe I just got lucky with the light, but either way, that little lens hood came in handy. One thing that really surprised me is how pleasing the bokeh looks. While you won't get the same level of subject isolation as you would get with a longer lens, the f1.7 provides the right amount of softness in the backgrounds, enough to make your subject stand out, especially in tighter compositions. I used to create beautiful autofocus foregrounds to add extra depth to my scenes. Take this shot for example, where I framed two lads through a car window. Both the window and the car seats were gently blurred just enough to add depth to the composition. Of course, I also used it for autofocus backgrounds. To me, this level of bokeh is more meaningful because it gives the background more substance and context within the frame. I used it again to photograph a gentleman wearing a striking white hat. I kept my angle low, framing his hat between the modest skyline and the beautiful white clouds in the background. The soft bokeh tied everything together perfectly. And finally, I used this lens to create a bit of visual magic. Autofocus foregrounds and backgrounds in what felt like a fairy tale scene. We stumbled upon a beautiful field of tall yellow flowers blooming wildly in the heart of spring. They were nearly as tall as me, swaying gently in the breeze. Tucked deep within the frame stood an old windmill, framed by a sky full of soft, puffy white clouds. I knew I had to make a photo there. I opened the lens wide to f1.7 because I wanted a few of those flowers in the foreground to fall out of focus, guiding the viewer's eye gently into the scene. From the dreamy foreground, through the golden field dancing in the wind, and finally to the windmill, sharp and still. The shallow depth of field helped me to isolate the windmill just enough, keeping the background recognizable and giving the subject its moment of quiet attention. From candid portraits by the sea to quiet street corners at sunset, this lens quickly became a trusted companion for everyday storytelling. It's light, discreet and stays out of your way, which is exactly what a street lens should do. Sure, there's a bit of distortion and no, it's not weather sealed, but when a lens feels this intuitive to shoot with, the specks fade into the background. All that's left is the moment and the urge to capture it. While shooting with this lens, I kept thinking that photography isn't just about specs or visual perfection. It's about how a lens makes you move, how it makes you see. And this lens, modest as it may seem, it reminds me that presence starts with perspective. That being closer isn't just physical, but emotional. At around 38mm, you're not hiding, you're not looming. You're just there. In the scene, part of the moment, that's the magic of focal lengths like this. They slow you down, they strip away the need to impress, and they bring back the desire to connect. So if you ever find yourself feeling distant from your work or the world, maybe it's time to take a step closer. Not for the shot, but for the experience. So who is this lens for? Whether you're just starting out or you are an experienced shooter looking for something light, fast and affordable with great image quality, then this one could be your ideal everyday lens. If you are curious to learn more, I've left some non-affiliated links down in the description. Also, Perger is offering an 8% off from their website with a code that you can find down in the description. What do you think about this focal length? Let me know down in the comments. And if you are using this lens or thinking of picking one up, I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Now, if you want to see how to easily master the 35mm composition, click and watch this video next. That was all for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I will see you on the streets. Bye bye.